Most people today claim they are tired, tired of life, tired of struggle, tired of prayers, tired of waiting for change. But in truth, they are not tired, they are undisciplined. Tiredness is physical, yes, but what most people experience is not the exhaustion of the body, it's the weakness of the soul. Allah did not create you weak, He created you capable, resilient, and strong. But when the heart forgets purpose, when discipline fades, even small tasks feel heavy, and the simplest acts of worship become burdens. What we call tiredness is often the lack of willpower to push through what the soul doesn't want to face. Look at the early generations. They prayed long hours at night, fasted during the day, worked hard, and yet they didn't complain of fatigue. Why? Because their hearts were connected to Allah. Their strength came not from their muscles, but from their conviction. When you have a reason that burns in your heart, your body finds energy it didn't know it had. The problem today is that we have comfort without commitment, ease without effort. We say we are tired after a few minutes of prayer, yet we can spend hours scrolling through a screen. That's not tiredness, that's misplaced discipline. You have energy, it's just being used for the wrong things. Allah tests His servants not through luxury, but through effort. Every act of worship requires consistency, the dawn prayer when sleep feels sweet, fasting when hunger bites, giving when wealth feels scarce. These moments reveal who is truly disciplined, the one who fights his desires, who pushes himself to obey Allah when it's difficult. That person earns divine strength. Discipline is not a punishment, it's a path to closeness with Allah. The Prophet they taught us that the most beloved actions to Allah are the consistent ones, even if they are small. Why? Because discipline shows sincerity. Anyone can worship when it's convenient, only the disciplined worship when it's hard. When we say, "I'm tired," we are often making excuses to escape responsibility. It's easier to rest than to rise. But what if you changed your mindset? What if, instead of saying, "I'm tired," you said, "This is my test"? Every time you push through the discomfort for the sake of Allah, He strengthens you. Every time you choose effort over ease, you are training your soul to endure. The believer understands that the body will one day return to dust, but the soul will stand before Allah, and that soul must be trained, disciplined, and prepared. You see, tiredness ends when you rest, but weakness grows when you surrender to it. The people who achieve greatness in this world and the next are not those who feel no pain. They are those who don't stop despite the pain. They wake up for Fajr even when sleep calls them back. They forgive even when their hearts are wounded. They keep going even when others quit, because they know the path to Jannah is steep and only the disciplined climb it. So, the next time your body whispers, "I'm tired," let your soul reply, "I'm not here for comfort, I'm here for purpose." The illusion of tiredness fades when you align your heart with your Creator. True rest is not in sleep, it's in obedience. When you stand before Allah in prayer, even at your weakest, you are at your strongest. Because in that moment, your discipline becomes worship, and your endurance becomes proof of your faith. When discipline dies within a person, something far more dangerous begins to awaken, the wrath of Allah. It doesn't come suddenly, it builds silently, just as neglect slowly turns into rebellion. When we stop disciplining ourselves in worship, in morality, in honesty, we begin a gradual decline toward heedlessness. And heedlessness is the seed of destruction. The Quran reminds us again and again of nations that were powerful, blessed, and secure, yet they lost their discipline in obeying Allah. They indulged in arrogance, ignored His signs, and mocked His messengers. Then the wrath of Allah descended upon them, not because Allah is unjust, but because they were ungrateful. The wrath of Allah is not only fire, storm, or flood. It is also the spiritual decay that comes when the soul forgets its Lord. When people stop restraining themselves from sin, when they stop feeling guilty for disobedience, they open the doors of divine anger upon themselves. Look at the world today: chaos, anxiety, corruption, and moral collapse. These are not random events. They are symptoms of a humanity that has lost its discipline in remembering Allah. We break promises, we chase desires, we mock modesty, and yet we wonder why peace disappears. When the discipline of faith is lost, blessings are taken away, hearts harden, and mercy turns to misery. Allah does not punish immediately. He gives chances, He sends reminders, He delays out of mercy. But when a person or a society continuously ignores those reminders, the punishment becomes inevitable. The storms that destroyed Ad, the earthquakes that swallowed Karan, the floods that drowned Nu, Macron letter 1E2, 5S people, these were not just stories of history, they were warnings for every generation. Their destruction did not come because of ignorance, but because of arrogance. They knew the truth but lacked the discipline to act upon it. And that is exactly how the wrath of Allah is unleashed when knowledge exists, but obedience dies. Sometimes the wrath of Allah does not come in visible calamities. It comes quietly by removing barakah from our lives. You may have wealth but no peace. You may have comfort but no contentment. You may have time but no blessing in it. This invisible wrath is more frightening because it consumes a person from within while they still appear successful on the outside. Undisciplined hearts invite this state by continuously choosing desires over duty, laziness over prayer, and pride over humility. The believer must always fear this shift from being guided to being abandoned. The Prophet _RFDFA warned us that when sin becomes normalized, when wrongdoing is no longer resisted, then the punishment of Allah may come upon all, even the innocent. That is why personal discipline is not only for yourself. It protects your family, your community, and your entire society. When individuals stay disciplined in obedience, they create a wall against collective corruption. But when that wall collapses, the flood of divine anger sweeps through everyone. We must realize that every sin we tolerate, every rule we bend, every command we delay, it's not a small act. It's a brick removed from that wall of protection. The wrath of Allah does not need to be invited through great crimes. It begins with small neglects. When prayer becomes optional, when truth becomes flexible, when modesty becomes outdated, that's when the foundation of faith begins to crack. But the most frightening part is that many do not even recognize it happening. They confuse Allah's delay with His approval, thinking that because punishment hasn't come, it never will. But Allah's patience is not weakness. It is a mercy that waits for us to wake up, and if we do not, the mercy turns into justice. So guard your discipline like you guard your life, for when it dies, the wrath awakens. And when the wrath of Allah is unleashed, no fortress, no wealth, and no status can protect those who turned away. Discipline is one of the greatest shields Allah has given to the believer. It guards not only your body and your time, but your soul itself. It is the invisible armor that stands between you and the wrath of Allah. When you live with discipline, you are in a constant state of awareness, aware of what you say, what you see, what you consume, how you spend your hours, and how you respond to temptation. This awareness keeps you connected to your purpose. It reminds you that every action, even the smallest, is being written and will one day be weighed. Discipline is not just a habit, it is a spiritual defense system. The disciplined believer doesn't obey only when it's easy. They obey because their heart knows that life itself is a trust from Allah. When the call to prayer is made and the bed feels heavy, discipline whispers, "Rise, this is your moment." When temptation knocks and desire burns, discipline reminds you, "Fear Allah, He is watching." When laziness creeps in and the world tells you to relax, discipline answers, "My soul will rest in Jannah, not here." This mindset protects you from the traps that lead others astray. It's not that disciplined people don't feel the same struggles, they do, but they fight their inner battle every day and refuse to let weakness win. Every act of discipline is an act of worship. When you control your tongue from gossip, you protect your heart from darkness. When you lower your gaze, you protect your soul from regret. When you give charity even though you want to hold back, you protect your wealth from loss. Each moment of control, each time you put Allah above your desire, You build a shield stronger than iron. This is why Allah loves the believer who is constant, because discipline shows that your worship isn't dependent on mood or convenience, but on commitment and sincerity. Undisciplined souls are easily swayed by emotions. One small disappointment can push them toward sin. One small test can make them forget their faith. But the disciplined believer remains firm like a mountain. Their patience doesn't break in hardship, and their gratitude doesn't vanish in ease. They understand that life will test them, people will test them, and even their own nafs will test them. But Allah is with those who remain steadfast. And steadfastness can only come from discipline. The disciplined person doesn't just protect themselves, they protect others. Their consistency becomes a source of guidance for their family, their community, their friends. When you pray on time, when you guard your character, when you act with sincerity, you remind others what true faith looks like. This is how communities stay strong, through individuals who are disciplined in their obedience to Allah. When that discipline spreads, the mercy of Allah descends, but when it disappears, chaos replaces peace. Think of discipline as light. The more consistent you are in worship, the brighter that light becomes. It guides you in confusion, comforts you in pain, and warns you in temptation. Without it, darkness takes over, and that's when sins feel easy, repentance feels distant, and hearts become hard. But when discipline lives within you, even when you fall, you rise again quickly. You don't let one mistake become a pattern. You don't let one weakness become identity. That's the difference between the disciplined and the heedless. So guard your discipline as you would guard a precious treasure. Don't let your desires break it. Don't let laziness weaken it, and don't let the world distract you from it. Because this shield you carry, this daily struggle for self-control, is what stands between you and destruction. And when the day comes that Allah's judgment is unveiled, only those who lived with discipline will find that they were all along protected by His mercy. No matter how far a person has fallen, no matter how weak or undisciplined they've become, the mercy of Allah always leaves a door open. Allah never abandons the soul that turns back to Him. Yes, you may have missed prayers, you may have lost control over your desires, you may have disobeyed again and again, but the beauty of your Lord is that He still invites you. He still calls you every single day through His signs, through the verses you hear, through the calmness that fills your heart when you remember Him. The wrath of Allah is real, but His mercy is always greater for those who choose to rise again. When you realize that your undisciplined life has distanced you from Allah, that realization itself is a gift. It means your heart is still alive. It means Allah has not sealed it. The first step back is not perfection, it's intention. It's that one sincere moment where you say, "Ya Allah, I've been weak, but I want to change." You don't need to fix everything overnight. You just need to take that first step. Because the moment you move toward Allah, He promises to come to you faster than you can imagine. This is how the heart begins to heal, one act of effort at a time. Rebuilding discipline starts with small, consistent acts. Wake up a few minutes before Fajr, not just to pray, but to talk to your Lord in silence. Feel the weight of your tiredness, and then feel the strength that comes when you rise anyway. That moment, when you fight your own laziness for His sake, is a moment of victory. Then, make your salah on time, no matter where you are or how busy you feel. Train your heart to prioritize obedience over convenience. Slowly, you'll notice how your days begin to change, your thoughts become clearer, your heart becomes calmer, and your life gains direction again. And as you build this discipline, don't expect it to be easy. The path of return is never smooth. Shaitan will whisper, "You've changed before and failed again." He'll remind you of your past mistakes. He'll convince you that Allah won't forgive you. He'll make the journey look impossible. But remember this, Allah does not expect perfection from you. He expects effort. Every time you rise after falling, you're proving that your faith is alive. Even if you stumble 100 times, what matters is that you get up the 101st. There's a moment when your heart begins to taste the sweetness of effort, when you realize that every act of discipline isn't about restriction, it's about freedom. Freedom from guilt, freedom from regret, freedom from the chains of your own desires. When you fast, you're not depriving yourself, you're mastering yourself. When you pray, you're not losing time, you're gaining peace. When you forgive, you're not being weak, you're being elevated. This is how the disciplined heart lives, in constant awareness that every struggle for Allah is a path to His mercy. And even if your past is filled with disobedience, never let it define you. The one who turns back to Allah becomes more beloved to Him than the one who never fell. Because Allah loves those who return, He loves the broken hearts that still bow before Him. He loves the ones who sin but refuse to give up seeking His forgiveness. No matter how dark your past has been, the moment you decide to rise, the light of His mercy begins to chase that darkness away. So rise again, rise from your weakness, rise from your distractions, rise from the life that made you forget who you are. You are a servant of Allah, created to worship, created to strive, created to reflect His greatness through your discipline and faith. Don't let your tiredness define you, let your effort define you, because His wrath is unleashed upon rebellion, but His mercy is unleashed upon those who return.